Why is no one talking about the fact that most people don't even recognize that their subconscious mind holds tremendous power over their life? And here's the best part. You're not like most people, and that's why you're here watching this video. And as you continue to watch, you'll begin to understand how getting in touch with your subconscious mind isn't just some, mystical concept. It's actually the key to unlocking limitless potential and transforming your life in ways you could have never imagined. Now, in our last video, part 12, we dove into the secrets of the will, that inner force capable of turning intentions into reality. And we learned that mastering the will, it's not about just like pushing harder with force. It's about aligning your desires with universal principles to create effortless momentum. But today we're taking it a step further. Most people, they let their subconscious minds run on almost like an autopilot, unaware of the immense power it holds over their thoughts, actions, and, ultimately their destinies. But I know that you're not most people. You're ready to take control. So stick around, because as we delve into part 13 of our modernization of Thomas Troward's Edinburgh lectures on mental science, you'll discover how tapping into your subconscious mind can become your secret weapon for success. We'll explore practical techniques to connect you with this silent partner, transforming it from an unseen force into the most powerful ally you've ever had. So are you ready to unlock the secrets that could truly change everything for you in your life? Let's dive in. So far we've made you somewhat aware of just how crucial our dealings with the subconscious mind are. Now, whether we're talking about your own personal journey or, the universe as a whole, our relationship with it is the master key to everything that we are or ever can be. Unnoticed, it's the springboard for all those automatic actions of the mind and body, kind of like breathing or your heart beating without you having to think about it. And on a grander scale, it's the silent force of evolution, slowly pushing everything towards that epic divine event all creation is heading towards, whatever that might be. When we consciously acknowledge our subconscious, we make it, at least for ourselves, all that we believe it to be. The closer that we get to syncing up with it, the more control we gain over things that used to run on autopilot. And eventually, we might just end up controlling our whole personal universe. Sounds like a big deal, right? Well, it is. So naturally, the burning question is, how do we actually get in touch with this mysterious subconscious mind? Well, here's the clue. The subconscious doesn't really do personal the way that we think of it. I know that's kind of a weird way to phrase it, but pay attention to what I'm about to share with you, because it will make sense in just a second. It's not impersonal because it lacks personality or individuality, but because it doesn't recognize the specific external relationships that make up our sense of self. It operates on its own level, independent of those things. So if we want to connect with it, we have to meet it where it lives, not by dragging it down to our everyday level, but by rising up to it. Tapping into the absolute, if you will. But how do we pull that off? Let's let a well-known but slightly obscure writer of the old chime in. Now, I'll probably mispronounce the author's name, so forgive me, but in Rudyard Kipling's story, Kim, maybe check it out, I imagine you probably haven't heard of it, the boy Kim sometimes repeats to himself, who is Kim? Who is Kim? who is Kim over and over until his sense of self kind of just fades away. What happens is he experiences a feeling of merging into a grander, wider life where Kim doesn't exist, but his own consciousness remains. Only it's bigger and more, for lack of a better term, awesome than before. Right? So you might want to ask yourself, who is your name? I might say, who is Jaden? Who is Jaden? Who is Jaden? And I might meditate on that. And, some interesting things might happen if you pause in between and really tune inward. The point is, okay, we tap into the absolute, the big picture in direct proportion to how much we let go of the relative, the small stuff that can sometimes seem like the big stuff. It disguises itself as the big stuff. But they balance each other out in a lot of ways. So to get in touch with our subconscious mind, we need to think of ourselves as pure being, the core entity that supports all of our outward expressions. And when we do that, we realize that the essential quality of pure being has to be good. It's pure life. And as such, it can't desire anything that would harm pure life, no matter how it's expressed. So the purer our intentions, the more easily we'll sync up with our subconscious. And this goes double for the greater subconscious mind, the universal one that our own is just a piece of. And herein lies a great reflection point. Can you recall a moment when letting go of your usual concerns allowed you to experience a deeper sense of self or clarity? How might intentionally cultivating pure intentions help you connect more profoundly with your own subconscious mind? Now let's take a look at some more practical steps to engage your subconscious. In practice, this means first forming a clear idea in our conscious mind of what we want to convey to the subconscious. Once we've got that nailed down, we need to forget all about the other stuff connected to our external personality, except for the thing in question. Then mentally talk to your subconscious as if it's almost an independent entity. Tell it what you want it to do. Tell it what you want it to believe. Everyone will have their own way of doing this, but here's a simple and effective method that you might want to try. Say to your subconscious mind, here's what I want you to do. You're going to step into my shoes and do it using all your powers and intelligence, and think of yourself as none other than me. After that, return to your normal conscious self and trust that your subconscious will get the job done, as long as you don't mess it up by sending conflicting messages later, digging up the seed or the spiritual prototype. This isn't just wishful thinking. It's truth being proven daily by more and more people. The facts weren't made up to fit the theory. The theory was built carefully by observing the facts. And since we've shown both in theory and practice that this is how the relationship between the subjective, the subconscious, and the objective conscious mind works, we're faced with a big question. Is there any reason why the laws that apply to our own individual subconscious minds shouldn't also apply to the universal mind, the divine? And the answer is no, there's no reason at all. As we've already discussed, the universal mind, by its very universality, has to be purely subconscious. And what's true for a part has to be true for the whole. The qualities of fire are the same whether you're talking about a, match or a bonfire. So let's wrap up these lessons by thinking about what happens when we apply what we've learned about our subconscious minds to the universal mind, the divine mind. We've learned that the three big facts about the subconscious mind are its creative power, its openness to suggestion, and its inability to work in any other way than deductively. That last point is super important because it means the subconscious isn't limited by precedent. The inductive method works from existing patterns and can only remix the old into something newish, like Hollywood reboots. But the deductive method works from principles and doesn't rely on any previous concrete examples to understand them. And this must be how the universal mind works, because being the origin of everything, there couldn't have been any prior patterns for it to, learn from. So by necessity, it operates deductively, which means its creative power is absolutely unlimited. And since it's essentially subconscious mind, it's completely open to suggestion. And therefore, it's an unavoidable conclusion that just as we can, through suggestion, shape the personality of our individual subconscious minds, we can and do the same with the universal subconscious mind. And that's why I've emphasized the inherent personal quality of pure spirit when we think about it in its deepest sense. So the most important thing is what kind of character we attribute to the universal mind, because since our relationship to it is purely subjective, it will unfailingly be to us exactly what we believe it to be. You might want to rewind that. In other words, it'll reflect back to us whatever we impress upon it. This is just logical, given that our primary relationship to it can only be on the subjective plane, and our objective experiences spring from that source. And herein lies a great reflection point. What beliefs do you currently hold about the universal mind or the universe or life or God? How might these beliefs be influencing your daily experiences and interaction? This is really the meaning behind that intriguing Bible passage that's repeated twice. With the pure, thou wilt show thyself pure, and with the froward, thou wilt show thyself froward. Don't worry, I had to Google froward too, probably also mispronouncing it, but it means stubbornly disobedient. Okay, the context makes it clear. These words are addressed to the divine being. The spiritual kingdom is within us, and as we realize it there, it becomes real to us. It's the unchanging law of the subjective life that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That is, our inner subjective states are the only true reality. That is to say, our inner subjective states are the only true reality, and what we call external realities are just their objective reflections, like a mirror. If we fully grasp that the universal mind must be to us exactly what we conceive it to be, and that this isn't just imaginary but an actual fact based on the laws of the subconscious mind, then I can't overstate how important it is to carefully choose our conception of the universal mind. For those who haven't studied this stuff, there's little choice. They adopt the idea that's been handed down to them, and until they learn to think for themselves, to see the truth, to try, they have to live with the results of that tradition. Natural laws don't make exceptions, and however flawed the traditional idea might be, accepting it will bring about a corresponding reaction from the universal mind, which will then reflect back into the individual's conscious mind and external life. But for those who understand how this works, we've got only ourselves to blame if we don't reap the benefits. The greatest teacher of mental science ever, spoiler alert, it's Jesus, laid down pretty clear rules for us. With a depth of understanding that only those with practical experience can appreciate, he told his uneducated audiences to picture the universal mind as a loving father, compassionate to all, sending the common bounties of nature to both the evil and the good. But he also said it shows special care for those who recognize its willingness to do so, like knowing the very number of hairs on your head and considering you more valuable than many sparrows. Prayer was meant to be made to this unseen being, not with doubt or fear, but with absolute certainty of an answer. And no limits were to be set on its power or willingness to help us. But to those who didn't realize it this way, the great mind becomes an adversary, if I could speak, who throws them into prison until they've paid every last penny, metaphorically speaking, of course. In all cases, the master emphasized the exact correspondence between our attitude towards this unseen power and its attitude towards us. This teaching wasn't narrow-minded, but an adaptation of the deepest truths of what we now call mental science to the intellectual capacity of ordinary people. And the basis of it all is the hidden personality of spirit throughout the infinite nature under every form. As pure life and intelligence, it can't be anything but good. It can't intend evil. So all intentional evil puts us in opposition to it and deprives us of its guidance and strength, leaving us to fend for ourselves against the universe, odds that will eventually overwhelm us. But remember, the opposition can never come from the universal mind itself, because being subconscious, it can't initiate active opposition. That would go against everything we've learned about the nature of the subconscious mind, whether individual or universal. The position of the universal mind towards us is always a reflection of our own attitude. So while the Bible is full of warnings against those who persistently oppose the divine law of good, it's also full of promises of immediate and full forgiveness to all who can change their attitude and want to cooperate with the law of good as much as they understand it. The laws of nature don't act out of vengeance. That's the wrong way to think about it. So beyond all theological formulas and traditional interpretations, let's realize that what we're dealing with is the supreme law of our own being, and it's based on this natural law that we find declarations like the one in Ezekiel 18:22, which says that if we turn from our wicked ways, our past transgressions will never be mentioned again. We're dealing with the great principles of our subconscious being, and our misuse of them in the past can't make them change their inherent way of working. If our past use of them has brought us sorrow, fear, and trouble, we just need to fall back on the law that if we reverse the cause, the effects will also be reversed. So what we have to do is simply change our mental attitude and then try to act accordingly to the new one. The sincere effort to act according to our new mental attitude is essential because we can't really think one way and then act another. But our repeated failures to fully act as we'd like shouldn't discourage us. It's the sincere intention that matters most. And over time, this will free us from the habits that currently seem impossible to break, like trying to give up midnight snacking. So the first step is to decide to picture the universal mind as the ideal of everything we could wish it to be, for ourselves and for others, and then try to reflect this ideal, however imperfectly, in our own lives. Once we've taken this step, we can cheerfully see it as our ever-present friend, providing all good things, protecting us from danger, and guiding us towards wisdom. Gradually, as the habit of viewing the universal mind in this way grows on us, becomes more natural, we'll find that according to the laws we've been discussing, it will become more and more personal to us. In response to our desire, its inherent intelligence will make itself more clearly felt within us as a power of perceiving truth far beyond what we could figure out through mere intellectual investigation. Similarly, if we think of it as a great power, devoted to meeting all of our needs, we'll impress this character upon it. And by the law of the subconscious mind, it will start acting like that special provider we believe it to be. And if, beyond general care of our concerns, we want to draw some particular benefits to ourselves, the same rule applies. Impress your desire upon the universal subconscious mind. And if we realize that we want something even greater and more enduring, the building up of character and the unfolding of our powers so we can grow into fuller measures of joyful and joy-giving life, the same rule holds. Convey your desire to the universal mind, and by the law of the relationship between the subjective and the objective mind, this too will be fulfilled. So the deepest problems of philosophy bring us back to the old saying, ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. This sums up the natural law of the relationship between us and the divine mind. It's no idle boast that mental science can enable us to make our lives what we want them to be. We have to start from where we are now, and by correctly understanding our relationship to the divine universal mind, we can gradually grow into any conditions we desire, provided we first make ourselves in habitual mental attitude the person who corresponds to those conditions. We can't get around the law of correspondence. The external will always reflect the internal principle that gives rise to it. And there's no limit to this law. What it can do for us today, it can do tomorrow and through the endless tomorrows, stretching into eternity. Belief in limitation is the only thing that causes limitation, because we're impressing that limitation upon the creative principle. And as we let go of that belief, our boundaries will expand, and increasing life and more abundant blessings will be ours. But let's not forget and ignore our responsibilities. Trained thought is far more powerful than untrained thought. So the deeper we delve into mental science, the more carefully we need to guard against thoughts and words that express even the slightest ill will. Gossip, spreading rumors, or mocking laughter aren't in line with mental science principles. So maybe think twice before posting that snarky comment on social media. Likewise, even our smallest thoughts of good carry a seed of good that will surely bear fruit in due time. This isn't just about being a goody two-shoes. It's an important lesson in mental science. Our subconscious mind takes its color from our settled mental habits, and an occasional affirmation or denial won't be enough to change it. So we need to cultivate the tone we want to see reflected in our conditions, whether of body, mind, or circumstances. And herein lies another reflection point. What daily practices or habits can you adopt to consistently cultivate positive thoughts and attitudes, ensuring your subconscious mind is aligned with the life you desire? Look, folks, we can't be perfect. We're human. This isn't to say that you can never have a negative thought, in your life. That's the wrong way to think about it. What we're looking to do here is to raise the set point, of our positive thought. In these lessons, my aim hasn't been so much to give you specific rules of practice, but to lay down the broad general principles of mental science so you can form your own rules. In every field, book knowledge is just a means to an end. Books can only point us in the right direction, but we have to do the finding ourselves. So if you've really grasped the principles of this science in the videos and in what we've covered together so far in this series, you'll start to create your own methods. If you've actually been doing answering the reflection questions and taking time to think and meditate on them. And this is what's going to give you better results than trying to follow somebody else's approach, which was successful for them precisely because it was theirs. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Stop looking for, the guru outside of yourself. It is within. And if mental science doesn't teach you to be yourself, I really don't believe it's not teaching you anything. You want to be yourself. You want to be more yourself and even more yourself, but with the understanding that the true self includes your inner and higher self, which is always in direct touch with the great divine mind, God. As Walt Whitman says, You are not all included between your hat and your boots. As we wrap up our exploration of the subconscious mind, we've journeyed into the depths of that silent partner working behind the scenes of our lives. We've learned that by consciously connecting with our subconscious, we can unlock immense creative power, transform our intentions into reality, and tap into a wellspring of wisdom that's been there all along. It's kind of like discovering a hidden room in a house you thought you knew inside and out, and that room is filled with treasures and tools to enrich every aspect of your life. But understanding and harnessing the power of the subconscious is just one piece of the puzzle. The mind and body aren't separate islands, they're intimately connected, each influencing the other in profound ways. And this connection raises some fascinating questions. How does our mental action produce real effects on material substances? Can our thoughts truly influence our physical bodies and even our environment? Some might find it hard to believe that mental action can produce any tangible effect on the physical world. But if that weren't possible, mental science wouldn't exist, and the incredible transformations that we've discussed would just be wishful thinking. Yet the very fact that we can think, dream, and then bring those dreams into reality suggests there's more to this connection than meets the eye. So in our next installment, part 14, The Body, we'll delve into the fascinating relationship between mind and matter at a deeper level than we have thus far. We'll explore how our thoughts can influence not just our own bodies, but also extend outward to affect our environment. We'll look at compelling evidence and practical examples that demonstrate this profound connection, bridging the gap between the invisible and the visible, the inner and the outer. So are you ready to take the next step and uncover the secrets of how your mind interacts with your body? Join us in the next video, part 14, as we explore the intricate dance between thought and physical reality, unlocking yet another dimension of your limitless potential. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to dive even deeper into the mastery of mental science, go to betterthought.com and subscribe to my newsletter. Not only will you find bonus material to complement what you just learned, but you'll be notified as soon as the next video in this series is released. So go to betterthought.com now and subscribe so we can continue this journey together. Until next time, Godspeed.